Joining me on the line now is Executive Officer of the Domestic Violence Resource Centre here in Victoria, Virginia Geddes. Ms Geddes, good evening, or good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tom.
Did you read what Dee Dee had to say?
I did read what she had to say, yes.
What was your reaction?
I think it was unfortunate, her wording, and I really understand her motivation. I read what she said in an interview later with Neil Mitchell. That she had a friend who'd experienced, who was in a violent relationship, and Dee Dee was really distressed about that and had felt powerless. And I can see here that she's thinking if some high-profile person in the community takes a stand, well, that's going to help eliminate domestic violence. And I really understand her motivations, but I think, being the woman who's the victim of violence, it tends to feed into all of those other things that people say about women who've experienced violence, like, why didn't she leave? Why didn't she contact the police? Why didn't she seek help? And the focus is always on the woman. Why didn't she do something to protect herself or her children or whatever, rather than on why didn't he do something about stopping his violence? So I think we have to remember that when you say, why doesn't she stand up, why doesn't she leave, why doesn't she contact the police, we're making the woman somehow responsible for the man's violence. And, what we should be saying is, why didn't he do something? And in this case, why didn't they? There were witnesses.
Well, there were photographers. There were many witnesses. I mean,
yes, and one of the witnesses I read in something online said it was utterly shocking to watch. I have no doubt she was scared. It was horrific, really.
Did they do anything? No, they did not.
No, and see, this is important too. If we are going to eliminate violence against women in our community, then people must take a stand. They must. The very least they could have done, if they were frightened for their own physical well-being, the very least they could have done was to call the police.
Ms Geddes, can I ask you, I think one of the reasons people tend not to intervene in domestics, as they're often called here, is precisely because they are domestic, and it does appear to be rationalising it or whatever. I'd like to think that I would intervene, but I can understand plenty of people who wouldn't, rightly or wrongly. Do you think people should be more ready to intervene when they see a husband doing something unacceptable to his wife, or just a man doing something unacceptable to a woman, whether or not they're married or not?
I think so. They should take some action, but as I said before, sometimes you might judge that there would be physical danger to yourself in intervening, and I understand that some people might choose not to. I know there was a guy who did intervene in Melbourne a year or so ago and was killed as a result.
Yeah.
But you must do something.
I agree. I think people need to intervene. In fact, I think society would be better off if more people were prepared to put themselves forward. But I can understand, today there was a story about graffiti in the train and someone wrote that they saw it, but the person doing it also had a knife and they didn't want to do anything because, they might be attacked. Okay, so overall, Dee Dee's made a mistake but shouldn't be hung out to dry for it?
Well, I don't think there's a lot of point in hanging Dee Dee out to dry. I think we should be saying, well, there are a lot of people there who witnessed this. Why didn't they take action? What can we do about it? And I'd like to just go a little bit further back along the thinking here. It's not just why don't people take action when they see an act of violence, Tom. It's why don't they take action when they're hearing people speak in a sexist way, or when they hear examples of misogyny, because these are the roots of violence against women. And there's been, last week the media was saturated with stories of sexism and misogyny, and there was very little link made, there was no links made to the violence against women. So if we really want to stop violence against women, not only do we have to speak out at the time that we witness it, but we have to speak out against all of those things that underlie violence against women.
Very true.
And that's where we want high-profile people to speak out. We want politicians to speak out about sexism. We want presidents of sporting clubs to speak out about it. And we want restaurant owners who've got sexist and demeaning comments about prime ministers on their menus to speak out about it. They're the high-profile people that we want to speak out about violence against women, because we want them to prevent the violence by speaking out about the misogyny.
Virginia Geddes, Executive Officer of the Domestic Violence Resource Centre, thank you very much for joining us.